Hi guys, welcome back. You want to know what knife to buy at home on a budget? We're going to go through a cutting edge adventure today to figure out which knife would be right for you. So stick around and we'll go through it one by one. Guys, welcome back to Deep Seats. Today episode is all about knives. So we're going to go through 5 knives from 5 different retailers. They all have slightly different qualities to them, but similar in its own right. We're going to go one by one. We're going to go through what knives are made of. We're going to go through honing and sharpening. I'll also show you a set. Basically, you can pick up a set as well for quite cheap. That would be great. And sometimes you can find good deals. And one of my knives on the rack actually was a really good deal for this purchase. And the only reason why I bought it was for that reason. So we'll go through a bit of information about knives first. So in the world of knives, there are 2 major competitors. I'd say a German steel and a Japanese steel made knives. So the German steel is the one that I normally use for my shows, which is the Wüststoff German steel. So most steels, most knife steels are made from a composite of carbon and iron, which the 2 competitors here are the Wüststoff and the Damashido, which are the Japanese steel, Japanese, German. The difference between them both. So Japanese steel itself will contain a lot more carbon, which will make the actual metal itself a lot harder. And the German steel obviously will hold its edge a lot better, just due to that fact it might be slightly softer than the Japanese steel. The difference is the Japanese steel will have a much sharper blade from packet and even consistently holding a much sharper blade. They are sharpened between 14 and 15 degrees, while the German steel is being sharpened at 20 degrees. So the big difference is that the blade itself from the Japanese is actually a lot sharper because it's more of an acute sharpness or angle that it's been sharpened at. You also figure out when you actually hold the knives itself, the German knife is actually a lot heavier than the Japanese steel, due to the German knife being fully one piece with a handle plugged in between the actual steel itself. So you'll find it's a little bit more harder, a bit more hefty to go through like harder products. Where the Japanese knife, the actual blade itself will butt into the handle, but it is really light. So this is a Dadashimo from Baccarat. This is actually a Western style shaped knife with the rocking style. Japanese knives traditionally are actually quite straight as well, mainly for slicing, like precise cuts. So I'm just happy to actually have this on the rack to show you. We also have, in the world of knives, we have steels. So these are basically what we call steels. These are not to sharpen your knife. These are only really to keep the edge of your knife alive. So we have a steel, I have a steel one and a diamond steel here. The difference is steel is probably cheaper, a bit more regular, available for use, and most of the time they'll come with your set, unless there's a particular knife like the Japanese steel that you might need a certain steel for, a type of steel. There's also ceramic in the set, so they're the 3. So you have steel, ceramic, diamond. Diamond is actually my favorite to use because they actually take a little bit of steel off your knife every time you do hone your knife. So it actually keeps your edge sharper for longer, before prolonging the time that you need to actually physically sharpen your knife. That is going through steels. Sharpening your knife. For at home, you have an oil stone, a wet stone, a diamond stone, or a diamond plate basically, to sharpen your knife. So there's the 3 different ones again that you can use to sharpen. This is actually physically to sharpen your knife. This is I actually own a wet stone which has a 3000, 8000 grit, so this is probably one of the finer ones you can get. I know there's I think finer ones you can buy, I'm not overly sure. This is the hard way of doing it, I would say. It takes a bit of time. For a professional, I prefer this way because you actually get a better edge and you won't chip your knife as well as much as you would with something like this. This is Clever Sharp. This thing here, literally you put onto your desk or bench or table or whatever. It has a suction cap. And you stick it down and then you'll throw your knife, will come through and what happens, it will get your edge back. Give it a few hits on the honing steel and you'll basically get your edge back. The problem with these things is that they chip away metal quite a lot, so your knife will last only half the lifetime length that it should. Even with the softer or the harder metals, you actually chip away at the blade itself. So that is sharpening. Also in the world of knives, you can buy yourself a set. So this thing here is a set. I actually bought this from Aldi for $49. It's actually lasted me about 3 years. The blades, I've actually only had it sharpened once professionally by a bladesmith. So that is another option that you can use as well. Bladesmiths and even sometimes butchers will do it for you. Bladesmiths will be around $7 AUD a knife. But very good at their job. It's pretty much what they do every single day. But sets of knives again will come in. This is probably one of the smaller sets. There's only a 5-piece. So obviously my chef's knife, a bread knife. To be quite honest, these are the only 2 knives I reckon you actually physically need in the kitchen. The other 3 would probably be a bit of waste of time or space. If you want a full set, by all means get it, and you can get it for cheap. Brilliant. So, chef's knife, bread knife, utility knife, or a carving knife, a vegetable knife, paring knife. I'm not going to hold them all. That's pretty much a basic set, and most of the time you'll receive a steel in it, which will be normally a stainless steel to hone or keep your knife or blade nice and sharp. Basically into a set. Alright, let's get into critiquing our knives that we have. So knife number 1 is from a store called Kmart, which is like a convenience store or a clothing store, gardening, etc. Which is this one here. I find it very light. It has an okay shape. The handle's actually quite good, but made in China. I've actually had one of these a couple of years ago, and I've had it for like 2 or 3 months, and the handle came off. The plastic broke inside. The knives were chipped completely onto the bottom by trying to re-sharpen it. They're impossible to sharpen. There's no point. You might as well use it in the garden after you've done with it. And the shape on the bottom is actually not very good either. So it's quite flat on the bottom, basically going out to the tip. The tip's not very sharp either. I tend to struggle cutting through these things here. The knife that you should probably forget completely about is this knife here from Coles. It's super thick, it's super heavy, it's got no edge to it at all. It will chip, it will break, the handles start coming off. I've had it for a couple of days. The tops have actually got rust all over it already. I really don't like them at all. I find them a waste of time. No, don't waste your money on it. I'd rather save up a few bobs for a uni student, for an example, and buy something similar to maybe this. This one here is an E4 Ice Force. So basically what it means is that it's been produced or finished in a very low temperature. It stops it from rusting. It basically says that it will stop it from rusting completely. So you will never ever see a spot of rust. It will never get bad from corrosion from steel. This is made from a German steel. It's actually the same metal composite as this one here. So it has a high carbon content, like a Japanese style a knife. So I don't know why they call it German steel, but at the end of the day, I do like the shape of the handle. I actually like the look as well. It's quite light, it's easy to maneuver. It's got a good shape to it. The only issue I have is that the tip of your knife is actually flat. Basically just the floor probably in sharpening, but apart from that, it's a pretty good knife. I don't mind it. The next one is IVO from NSF, sorry. So I think a lot of butchers use these sort of brands here in Australia. I actually like this knife as well. I've actually owned one myself in my toolkit for work. I use it as I've got the smaller 16cm chef knife from it. I find it more good for a vegetable knife for rocking and peeling. But this is the same metal composite again, high carbon. This is actually dishwasher safe as well. One of the very rare chef knives that actually you can put into a dishwasher. Quite sharp. It's got a good shape to it with rocking. There's no imperfections on the blade, and it's actually quite sharp as well. Handle's comfortable. It's a decent weight. The only problem is it's probably a little bit thick steel wise, so you probably have a bit more harder doing the finicky jobs like cutting or dicing onions really finely, etc. So my last knife was my bargain one, which is my Dirashima from Baccarat. So this is Japanese steel. Really light, the handle's lovely, it looks really sexy, it's a great looking knife. Definitely no imperfections to this. It cuts like a razor blade. I can't really floor it too much. It's apart from probably being hard, if you know what I mean, so it's probably going to be easily chipped, so you've got to be very careful with these, especially when sharpening. It's probably best to get a professional to do this sort of knife for you. Right, I'm going to get into a cut test, and when that's done I'll get back to you and I'll show you the results afterwards. Cheers. So I've ended up completing the cutting test, and it was quite interesting, to be quite honest. So we'll go through it one by one and I'll show you the outcome of what actually happened and the pros and cons of each knife. Okay, first we've got our Kmart knife. It actually did a surprisingly really good job. The only issues that I think I'll find with this, obviously you probably can't resharpen this knife. It will go rusty, you'll chip it when you try to sharpen it. The things will start falling apart pretty quickly, so the price tag really represents what you'll have. But the beginning cuts, if you don't mind spending money again and again and again on a cheap knife, then by all means go for it. Especially if you're a uni student or someone who's on a low income, it's all you can really afford and you really need something new. It does the job. So the tomato was quite consistent in cutting. The spring onion was a little bit thick. I did struggle to get through, especially with that flat spot here at the back of the knife up here. And the onion, pretty decent. My Coles knife, I might as well just throw it in the garbage bin and use it for the edges of my lawn, because quite frankly it's rubbish. Too thick, blade's really blunt, it just did not do anything. I hacked onion, I hacked spring onion, and I definitely hacked a tomato. So I wouldn't even bother spending money onto that, it's just rubbish. Tefal Ice Force from Target. So the cuts from this one were really good. That spot down here actually really didn't bother me too much, especially with the onion. Onion is really fine. I've had a few issues probably just towards the back where it didn't cut properly. Spring onion was really good, and tomatoes is really consistent as well. Probably a little bit thicker because the control of the blade is actually moving a little bit. So it is a flexible knife as well. Wish I could show you that on camera. It does bend a little bit as well, so you would find it will be good for things like doing fish, etc. But anything hard like going through bones, forget about it. You'll probably just chip it and break it. IVO, high carbon, really good knife. I did find that the actual blade was a little bit too thick for some of the delicate jobs. The onions, definitely, it still came out really good. The spring onions was fine, actually was better than the Tefal, because the heel of the knife here does most of that slicing, chopping work. It went through it pretty cleanly and pretty quick, and the tomatoes itself, really consistently cut. Really good. Definitely worth the money or the price for that one. So my Baccarat Dirashima dice is perfect pretty much. I can't fault that. The slice again, and the slice is your tomato, so it's super consistent as you can see, and it's really thin as well. So the three ones that I did use obviously was onion for a fine dice, we did spring onion for a slice, that's middle of the knife, tip middle of the knife, and the tip of your knife for a slicing, and different actions as well. Okay guys, back to my conclusion of what knife performed the best. The worst performing was my Coles knife. Blade too thick, doesn't keep its edge, rusts really quickly. The handle's pretty well done and dusted. I've only bought it a couple of days ago, I've only used it a few times. To my best performing, which is the Dirashima Dimashita knife, which was incredible to handle, it was super smooth, lovely to look at, super comfortable, really sharp. Downfalls of that one, I think you have to really maintain it really well. If it does go blunt, you might have to get it professionally sharpened. Using one of these won't cut it because you will destroy the knife. Kmart knife performed really well. So we're looking at $8 for the Coles knife, $5 for the Kmart knife. Performed really well actually. It cut really well. Again, the problems are handles coming off, it will rust really quickly. You can't sharpen it again. So you might have to keep replacing it constantly again and again and again. My T-full knife at $35 actually performed really well again. I probably would prefer this over the IVO just due to the fact the thinness of it is more, you can utilize it more in your cooking. So dicing onions, slicing carrot, you can get those little delicate jobs done a lot better than you can probably with a thicker blade that you have from the IVO. Same metals, remember, as well, but the blade of the IVO is actually a lot thicker, and they'll hold their blade for quite a long time as well. Both rust resistant. This IVO is actually dishwasher safe as well, but the thing is you might damage the metal, 1, and 2, it might have to be sharpened more regularly because of the dishwasher when it gets up to that big heat. So going through the knives anyway, again we're going to go through costings. So $8 for Coles, $5 for Kmart, $35 for Teflon. IVO was $48 from my cooking store, and from House, which is like a cooking store again, I paid $100 for this Delashimo, which was on special from $220. It shows you if you look around and you get yourself a really good set or a good knife for that price. Just go look around, guys. Honestly, if you can find yourself a good knife and whatever, it's all to your own. So how you feel comfortable with a knife, do that. Whatever your budget is. If your budget is a Kmart $5 knife, do it because they actually perform really well. Unfortunately, it may only last a month before it starts rusting. I think the main thing is to hand wash it, make sure it stays dry. If you do have a steel, to hone it every week or so, just to keep that edge going. In conclusion, it's completely up to you. Whatever you do, whatever you want to buy, if you're in the market for a new knife, I will be having 1, 2, 3 in further shows later on, and I will show you on how they perform as well. Yeah guys, so I hope that helped you out anyway. It was great having you watch this video. I'm hoping I gave you some insight or some knowledge about what knives are and what knife you can buy if you look in the market for looking for a new knife. But subscribe to my channel. I'm going to put a link up for a video, and if any questions or comments you have, leave below in the comment section and I'll try to get back to you and answer them. If you have any other questions, let me know and I'll see if I can figure out the answer for you and I'll get back to you ASAP. Be safe, good on you, I'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.